Everyone, I'm Dalen, the Campus Internship Coordinator at AU. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the transition from college to career. I actually graduated from AU pretty recently in 2023, so I've been in your shoes, and so that's why I wanted to talk about this today. So to start, after you graduate, of course, what do? First, you have to obviously apply for jobs, and you want to apply very frequently and earlier and more than you think. One of the mistakes I made was kind of waiting till I was practically graduated before I started applying to jobs. I didn't think anyone would accept me or even consider me because I was still in school, but that's not true. Hiring processes can take a long time that by the time they even get to your application, you'll probably be graduated. So apply very early, like probably your senior year, even at the start of it. And more often than you think. It takes dozens and dozens, up to hundreds and hundreds sometimes of applications before very good candidates even will hear back. So treat applying to jobs like a job, something that you're going to need to do a lot. And I know it's pretty tedious, but make sure you tailor each application to the position. Don't send the same resume, same cover letter, same portfolio to every company. You want to tweak each one a little bit to fit that company's needs, fit what they want, fit their culture, fit their slogans, their motto, everything like that. And then make sure you follow up with employers about a week after applying. If you haven't heard anything, it's good practice to send an email just to check in and see what next steps could possibly be. And another big thing you want to do, especially after graduating, is networking. If you have a current part-time job or retail job, you can network there, see if there's any opportunities for growth there that maybe would align with your career, or if anyone has any connections outside of that company that could help you get into a new job post-graduation. And set a schedule for yourself. I know I said treat applying to jobs like a full-time job, but you do want to set a schedule where you take breaks. Don't let that fully consume you because it can be pretty stressful. So maybe even you have hours where you dedicate time to resumes, cover letters, searching, all that stuff, but then you have a time where you log off. That's going to be really helpful in keeping you consistent, keeping you motivated, and keeping you organized. And then also, of course, Youth Career Services. We can help you as an alumni for free just as much as we help you while you're here at AU. So we can help with any of that job search, jobs application process. So some things to be aware of once you do get that job for your first day. Very helpful to check routes with and out without traffic just to avoid being late at all costs on that first day. Test how long it would take if there's no traffic, if there's a little bit of traffic, if there's a lot of traffic. You can test how long it'll probably take at certain times of day on your phone. So just do things like that. Maybe even do a practice trip to see how long it takes you individually. Maybe you're a different kind of driver. And then parking, so you know the parking situation when you're getting there, just to ease that anxiety that you're probably going to have that first morning. And aim to arrive about 15 minutes early and know where to go. So send an email confirming when you're going to be there, at what time, and ask who you should ask for, who you should report to, what room you should go to, again, just to ease that anxiety on the first day. You also want to confirm the dress code beforehand so you know what to wear. That could be something that you easily forget about, but then that first morning comes and you're like, I have no idea what's okay, what's expected. So make sure you know what the dress code is going to be in going into that first day. Confirm any paperwork or authorizations or identification that they might need. Make sure you have that all submitted or that you're bringing it with you on that first day and you know who to turn it into. And then be observant and intuitive. Like I said, with the dress code, maybe that's something that you can, you definitely want to confirm before the first day, but it's something that you can kind of observe and see how other people are dressing just to kind of see what the expectations are. You can be observant and intuitive with different procedures for lunch or what everyone does, how they interact via email or on Slack, how formal that is, just different things that you want to keep in mind and watch for so you know how to act in certain situations because every company is a little bit different. And then be sure you're making introductions and connections. Don't be quiet. Introduce yourself to everyone as much as possible. Make connections, conversations so they remember you and so that you remember them, just to make that first day less stressful and easier as you're going into the rest of that week. So the transition from college to career, some things you should expect. Of course, you're going to have more financial freedom. That's probably what you're looking forward to the most. You're probably going to be making more money, but that leaves a lot of room for more mistakes with money. So make sure you're easing into that new paycheck slowly, not spending it all right away because that can create habits that are really hard to break farther down the line. So start slowly getting used to that paycheck, living below your means, starting a budget, all those things. Of course, you're going to expect a more structured schedule than college. It's different than the academic calendar, so you might have to get used to working closer to the holidays or coming back to work pretty soon after the holidays. It's not going to be the same as the academic calendar. And it's just much more structured. You're not going to like have work canceled like you would have class canceled as much. So you're going to have to get used to that. And then you're going to have more hour-to-hour freedom potentially in your job, where you're going to have to fill your day kind of on your own. And you're not going to have as much of like, I go to class at this time, so I'm working on this at this time. You have to kind of create your own schedule and your own structure and your own routine to make sure you're staying productive. And you might have potential downtime. That's something about a lot of different jobs. And so you have to learn how to fill that productively, not overworking yourself, maybe taking breaks when you can, but still figuring out how to use your time wisely and stay productive during that downtime. You're going to obviously also have to expect longer hours, which can lead to potential monotony. You're not going from class to class, having breaks in between, having like different time to hang out and study with friends. It's going to be a lot of the same thing for a long stretch of time. So that's something to definitely get used to. And again, you have to it's a skill to learn how to fill that monotony and making sure you're not just boring yourself the entire day. You're going to also have to get used to and expect different kinds of feedback. You're not going to get regular grades, regular assignments, regular like numbers that indicate how you're doing. It's a lot more ambiguous and abstract once you're in your career. So you might have a performance review once a year, but that's not something that you're going to get in that regular check-in like you would at school. And then like one-on-one meetings are a good time to kind of gauge your performance. But again, it's not going to be as structured as with college or other academic experiences that you're used to. So you really have to kind of learn to ask for opinions, ask for feedback whenever you can get it, and kind of gauge how you're doing throughout the entire year. And then you're probably going to have increased responsibilities outside of work. Maybe you moved into an apartment or a house for the first time. Maybe you're not living with a roommate. Maybe you're not living in a dorm or your parents. So you're going to have to get used to a lot of other things outside of work, which can be a lot and can be overwhelming, especially during those first couple of years. Okay, so other things with the transition, things to watch for. You might notice that there's lingering academic influences and habits that you hold on to. Like maybe you're used, like the grading, you're expecting a grade, you're expecting direct feedback on how you're doing. You're expecting a schedule that's similar to an academic calendar or the academic day. And you kind of forget that that's not how things are anymore. So make sure you're trying to let go of those influences and habits that you've had for probably 15, 16 years. And let go of those, especially the ones that are no longer relevant, no longer serve you, no longer helpful. And then you might notice that you're getting rusty with academic skills, like not as quick of a reader, not as good at comprehending reading or writing, not good with like the theory behind what you're doing in your job or the terminology, things like that, because you're just used to doing it. So it can be really fulfilling to take the time to brush up on those things if you notice yourself getting rusty. And that's a good way to stay productive and stay on top of things and making sure you're doing your job as best as possible. You might also notice some feelings of isolation as you're kind of thrust into this new environment that's a much more structured, robotic almost, and just very routine and monotonous. So make sure you're watching for those feelings, checking in with yourself, asking for help when you need it. And then notice where you might be feeling out of control in certain areas. You've been so used to school for probably 15, 16 years, like I said. So now this feels out of control. This feels new. You don't know what to expect. And so you might latch on to other things in life and try to control those because you'd feel out of control in your career or in your job. So notice those things, be careful, be aware of those. Make sure you're asking for help if you need it. And then forgetting to have fun and relax on weekdays. We get so in this mindset of, I can't do that on a school night. Don't do that. Don't just go home, eat dinner, go to bed. Make sure you do things on weeknights. Make sure you fill your days with things that you enjoy. Take time for yourself. Don't just make your life about work Monday through Friday. And then things to remember. It's very hard to feel like you can handle this new kinds of stress, but you can. You handled so much stress during college with academic assignments. It just looks a little differently right now. So while I said to forget about academic influences that no longer serve you, you can still remember that you handled stressful times, you handled finals, you handled papers, you handled projects, and even treating the stress that you have at work like those, giving yourself deadlines for them, making a to-do list, using a planner like you maybe would have at school. That can be really helpful just to stay motivated and confident in yourself that you can handle what's happening at work. And then just remember that you're going to grow so much in that first year. It seems so scary at first and you seem so behind, but that first year is probably the most growth you'll do, sometimes even in your life, but especially professionally. So make sure you just remember that. You realize that everyone had a first year in their career post grad, and it's a transition for everyone. Another thing that I was kind of surprised, but was helpful to realize and remember now, is that we all still act like students. So when you have to work together on something at a job, you'll notice it's a very similar to dynamic to group projects at school. Everyone still falls into that student mentality. So that's good and helpful to realize that we're all kind of the same. We all have been in the same boat with school, and it's a little bit of familiarity there. Another thing to remember is that health and wellness needs to be a little bit more intentional. You were getting up, walking around, going from class to class, kind of running around all day, going from your job to class to sports to practice. Now you're kind of stuck in a certain schedule doing the same thing for most of the day typically. So you need to prioritize that. So get up and take walks when you can, maybe on your lunch or on your break. Be more structured and routine with your meals, making sure you're having set meal times, full meals, fulfilling, balanced meals. It's something that you might have to pay a little bit more attention to now that you're not running around like a college student. And then just remember that you can always pivot. So if you stay in that first job for a couple of years and realize it's just not where you want to be, there's so much room to pivot and just completely do a 180 about where you were and where you thought you were going to go. So there's no shame in that. We can help in career services help you pivot to a different career, a different kind of role, different industry entirely. So just focus on the skills that you have, transferable skills, and that skills that you can develop in your downtime to kind of make that transition into a different area if you'd like. So that's all I have. Thank you. Again, we're happy in career services to help you as an alumni and as a student. So just let us know how we can help, and we're here for you.